The same animals that strike terror in the hearts of swimmers generate excitement with many scuba divers. In an ironic twist, divers deliberately seek face-to-face encounters with some of the ocean's most dangerous predators, sharks. Dr. Eric Ritter is a leading authority on shark behavior and a passionate supporter of human and shark interaction. In the spring of 2002, he paid a very high price for his beliefs. A severe attack nearly cost him his leg and his life. Sharks fuel a booming ecotourism industry. From tropical seas to the cold waters of the Pacific Northwest, sharks are big business. A shark feeding frenzy. A fascinating and frightening spectacle. Dozens of predators slash and tear at their prey with razor-sharp teeth. But this exciting display is not a random act in nature's grand design. It's a carefully choreographed event staged for the benefit of scuba divers. It's a fair assumption that most people would avoid intentional contact with sharks, but many scuba divers and snorkelers line up to interact with the animals. Believe it or not, shark encounters are becoming one of the most popular attractions in the sport. Of all the sharks, one towers above the rest in our collective imaginations: the great white. Even though human fatalities have decreased, the visceral horror of being eaten alive remains. Since the dawn of time, people have been terrified of sharks. But in a deeply primitive sense, we admire them. We're transfixed by predators that can kill us. This fascination is the inspiration for the holy grail of shark dives. The Cape of Good Hope, one of the most treacherous bodies of water on Earth. Winter storms work their way north from Antarctica and pound the battered coastline. Windswept shores provide refuge for tens of thousands of South African fur seals. On land, they are clumsy and slow. Underwater, the nimble seals are eager to show off their acrobatic skills. These seas are not safe for even the most agile pinniped. This is the hunting ground of the great white. South African fishing village of Hansbaai, great whites fuel a burgeoning dive tourism industry. J.P. Botha and Andre Hartman operate Marine Dynamics, one of the most successful shark diving companies in the country. Both were formerly commercial fishermen, but with dwindling catches, they turned to ecotourism, specifically shark tourism. Their business plan is simple: wait for good weather, ferry visitors out to sea, and get them up close and personal with great whites.
The South African white shark diving business around Gansbaai started in the early 90s. In the beginning, there were only 3 operators. It grew to the 8 operators we have at the moment. Initially, there was a sort of an emotional outcry, and people were really concerned that the number of shark attacks would increase due to the commercial activity of attracting sharks. That fortunately has proved to be a false fear. This activity does not necessarily lead to more shark attack. And of course, the statistics have also been with us, so that the number of shark attacks have actually not increased. The local economy has benefited quite substantially by the shark tourism. The industry employs about 40 to 50 people, and these people spend their money in the local businesses. So there's a lot of spin-offs emanating from the shark business.
To attract the sharks, Andre Hartman first chums the water with a pungent combination of blood and fish remains. The scent of cow shark liver is a particular favorite of great whites. Coaxing them to the stern, Andre demonstrates an unusual phenomenon. Pushing aside the snout of a shark one day, he discovered that the animal became almost catatonic. It rolled its eyelids down, rose out of the water, opened its mouth, and snapped its jaws. The strange behavior appears to be related to highly specialized sensory organs in their nose and mouth. Touching them momentarily short-circuits their senses. Most customers view sharks from the safe confines of a boat or from a protective cage, but a few brave souls pay extra for the privilege of venturing into the water without the security of steel bars. At the surface, Andre Hartman acts as a safety diver and occasionally shows off. Do not try this at home. On the sea floor, a cautious Hartman scents the water with fish blood. The diver's expectations are exceeded. A 15-foot white shark appears like a ghostly apparition.
We were underwater for about 40 minutes, and of course the action all happens near the end of the dive. We were starting to get cold. Water temperature there was about 52, 53 degrees. You're looking through the small viewfinder and trying to keep it framed and focused, and the shark comes out of the gloom and simply just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and fills the frame on this high-definition camera. It's pretty awe-inspiring.
That shark swam right around us a couple times, looked at us, examined us, then made a pass across the bottom and right at the camera. Sharks don't have fingers and hands to test things with, so what they have to do is bite something. Unfortunately, because of their enormous size and tremendous strength, when they bite something, even though they're just sampling it and you really couldn't consider that a shark attack, it doesn't make much difference to the person that's been sampled. It still hurts.
The shark showed recent signs of mating activity. Deep scars along her side indicated a bite from a very large male. We can only speculate on the size of the animal that inflicted these wounds.
It seems like the more time I spend in the water with sharks, the more I realize that when you look into their eyes as they swim by you, and eye contact is very important with wildlife, there's someone in there. It's not just a stupid animal swimming by. Sharks are not maniacal or dangerous man-eating machines that are swimming around looking for humans to eat. They're really not.
In the Bahamas, over 100 sharks show up for a feeding. But how do you get out of the way of a frenzied mob? At the northernmost tip of the Bahamas, 100 miles east of the Florida coast, lies Walker's Key. The island is a renowned sport fishing destination and hosts thousands of visitors each year. Seizing on the availability of leftover fish parts, shark diving pioneer Gary Atkinson found a novel means of recycling normally discarded carcasses.
We're a premier fishing destination. Subsequently, as the fish would come into our fish cleaning room, we save those carcasses. We recycle those fish heads and carcasses back into the environment. One day my staff came up to me and said, Gary, when we go down to dump the carcasses at the end of the runway, the sharks hear the trucks coming and they gather. Well, I took a look at this and was astounded by it, and I thought, well, it'd be a natural progression then to relocate it out to the reef, and subsequently that's what we did. We started saving the carcasses, packing them, created the chum sickle. Basically, with the chum sickle, it's carcass feeding, which is very natural for this predator. So we wanted to present it to him in as natural a form as possible that he would understand. And in no way then would it also connect it to us as the diver, that we were going to be just viewed as another predator down there on the dive who showed up for the same reason they did. And that's why we can do the dive as safely as we do it, and why we've never had a single incident of agonistic display in 11 years. Probably 35,000 people have done this experience, including children as young as 4 years old, having animals within just a few feet of them.
At the dive site, the captain revs the boat's engines. The noise is a cue for the sharks that a feeding is about to begin.
Hold it right there.
As the frozen block of bait sinks, only a few sharks appear to be interested. Other fish are quick to take advantage of the free meal. Once thought to be set off by a single drop of blood, the infamous feeding frenzy may instead be incited by several different stimuli. The vibrations and head shaking of the first fish to feed, the scent trail, and the visual commotion all combine to excite the sharks. As the bait ball wears down, it eventually falls to the bottom. The sharks then fight for the remaining morsels of food. A handful of well-publicized attacks in 2001 spawned the Summer of the Shark. Overnight, shark bites and sightings became front-page news. Lost in the hype was the fact that there were far fewer attacks that year than the previous year. Worldwide, only 4 deaths were attributed to sharks in 2001. The Summer of the Shark dramatically changed public perception, taking it several steps backward to the old Jaws mentality of the 70s. The past quarter century since that landmark film has not been kind to sharks. Virtually all species have seen population declines of between 50 and 90%. The strain on their numbers comes primarily from overfishing. Federal regulations restrict shark fishing in U.S. waters, but the animals are targeted relentlessly in much of the world. Their cartilage is still considered a cancer treatment, and Asian demand for shark fin soup supports a wasteful finning industry. One of the main goals of diving operators such as Gary Atkinson at Walker's Cay is to increase awareness of the shark's plight through interaction with the animals in their natural habitat.
I think it's so vitally important that people learn as much as they can about an animal that is really misunderstood. In doing this experience and trying to educate people and hopefully stop the slaughter of these sharks, I feel that what we do is significant. The reason we do what we do is it's a myth exploder. People suddenly realize that, gee whiz, I'm down here with 100 animals and I'm safe and they could care less that I'm here. And they walk away with a whole different, rich experience than they ever thought they'd get when they first arrived here. That's the seed you're planting out there, because they're going to tell other people. Sharks have a bad rap as it is anyway, and I feel like our job here is to let people know that they're not the bad guy people have made them out to be.
If sharks are not the bad guys, why would they attack and nearly kill one of their staunchest supporters? Dr. Eric Ritter is a leading authority on shark behavior and a forensic investigator of shark attacks. Ritter has been instrumental in helping to change the popular perception of sharks as terrors of the sea to a vital species which deserves protection. Over the past 2 decades, Eric has introduced hundreds of students, photographers, and biologists to sharks. With a keen passion for the animals and their plight, he is one of few researchers who dares to freely swim with dangerous sharks. Ritter works exclusively outside the protection of a cage.
What I'm studying is the body language of sharks. I'm interested in how sharks express their intentions when they approach humans. Shark-human interaction is a very new field, but it's most likely the very field we need to understand these animals. We cannot just observe them by sitting on boats, sitting in front of aquariums. We have to interact with them. My main theory is that sharks are as predictable as dogs, parrots, cats, animals that we are comfortable with, animals that we're used to. We're not used to be with sharks. We have to just give them the chance to let them interact with us.
In a unique experiment at Walker's Key, Gary Atkinson and Dr. Ritter attract a handful of large sharks to shallow water. One of Eric's more controversial theories is that dangerous animals like bull and lemon sharks are not inclined to attack humans, even when enticed with bait. He believes attacks are caused by curiosity or mistaken identity and should be referred to more appropriately as shark accidents. More than 80% of attack victims survive, mainly because sharks realize their mistake and don't return for a second bite. Ritter simulates common attack scenarios, such as those on swimmers in shallow water and those on spearfishermen in deeper seas. Throughout his experiments, fish carcasses are thrown into the surf very near to where he stands or swims.
The most often seen accident scenario we have is through exploratory behavior, meaning the animal sees us, not us as a human being, but us as an object. Several factors come together, for example, sound, smell, motion of the object. Sharks, per se, are very curious animals. They have a very high level of hesitance. But if their curiosity takes over, at the end they may grab an object just to get a final idea of what the object could be, because nothing they sense is conclusive. So that's why in very rare cases they still grab the object.
In the spring of 2002, after nearly 2 decades and over 1,000 dives with dangerous sharks, Eric's luck finally ran out. He was severely bitten on the leg by a bull shark. A journalist accompanying Eric nervously paced and stirred up debris, reducing visibility. Quickly, the situation turned deadly. A large female bull shark was cornered between the two and lashed out at Eric.
What led to this bite that I had with the bull shark was one of a general situation we've done hundreds and hundreds of times. The person next to me did not stand still as I told him to. He walked back and forth. And so by walking back and forth, he stirred up a lot of sand. And so we lowered the visibility. So it was us who created the situation, not the animals. The second I got bitten, I lifted my leg right away because I had to get out of her mouth. And the problem is, if you have a 400-pound animal attached to you, there's nearly nothing you can do. I mean, you always hear, well, hit an animal, do this, that doesn't work. She let go, I looked at my leg, and I realized, first of all, there's not much left, and second of all, I knew I'm going to die within the next 2 or 3 hours because I've seen many of these wounds, and I knew how they're going to end if they do not get proper treatment.
Eric was fortunate. A small plane and its pilot were on the island at the time of the accident. Within 30 minutes of the bite, he was on his way to West Palm Beach, where a team of doctors was waiting. He nearly died due to an enormous loss of blood. Once stabilized, it appeared that he would lose his leg, but skilled surgeons miraculously managed to save it. Months of rehabilitation and a determined will spurred an amazing recovery. Additional reconstructive surgeries and skin grafts helped to restore use of his leg.
The first time I jumped back in the water was about 4 months after my bite. The wound healed so far that I could be in the water 15, 20 minutes. So the first opportunity I had, I jumped right back in at the very spot where I got bitten. I want that everybody sees these animals the way I see them. I want them to see the animal through my eyes. I see it even more clear what we have to do. We have to destroy the myth, the bad rap of these animals, and portray them the way they really are. They're fascinating, incredibly intelligent, curious. So I'm back in the water. I interact with sharks more than ever. So I'd say I do this for the rest of my life.
What is the fastest growing and most popular attraction for scuba diving tourists? Another Bahamian island is the epicenter of the shark diving industry. At New Providence, half a dozen scuba operations rely on sharks as a main attraction for diving tourists.
As for the sharks, what we don't want you guys doing is swimming with your hands, okay? These sharks are attracted to movement more than the blood in the water.
Unlike the bait ball style of feeding at Walker's Key, sharks here are fed by hand or with a steel pole. Shark wranglers utilize a chainmail suit which helps prevent injury, but a crushing bite can still hurt. The difficult part initially is to keep the ravenous animals away from the bait. Like pigs at the trough, they jostle for position. After using a pole, the wrangler moves towards the divers and feeds by hand. For the customers, this close-up action is a thrilling introduction to sharks.
It was pretty comfortable down there till the sharks got real close to you. I mean, I got pretty nervous. I've always thought they were pretty aggressive, but being down there today while they were feeding them and everything, they looked like gentle giants down there.
This dive was really, really good. Never been so close to sharks. Other divers have seen them in the blue in the distance, but never so close up.
It was almost like he was roughhousing dogs. Whenever a couple of sharks would come up to him, and he would just push their snoot away or whatnot, and he'd grab a hold of them and roughhouse them or pet them. So it was pretty neat.
The first thing this morning, we never would have known that we were going to be shark diving today. That's for sure. We just happened to run across it, and it sounded like a cool thing to do. So we said, let's go shark diving. It was just a fantastic experience.
From an economic standpoint, shark feeding I'm very much in favor of. Some people don't approve of shark feeding. They feel that we've changed the behavior of sharks. Yes, to a certain degree we have. Taken this area, we've probably changed the behavior of about 100 sharks, slightly. But they're still in their own environment. They generate a lot of income for the Bahamas, and those same sharks generate revenue year in, year out. Shark feeding is definitely becoming more popular, and it definitely does contribute towards the conservation of sharks. These people who would have otherwise viewed them as dangerous man-eaters and not cared about them, once they've been on a feed, they've seen them feeding, they're seeing they're not these vicious creatures, they're far more inclined to support conservation issues.
Most shark encounters occur in the warm tropics, but what animals lurk in the cold, deep sea? Shark diving is not confined to the tropics or to shallow temperate waters. In the dark, frigid realm of the deep sea lives a mysterious giant, the six-gill shark. Ancient hunters, unchanged since dinosaurs roamed the earth, they inhabit great depths. These living fossils can attain a length of over 20 feet. There are only a handful of places where six-gill sharks are frequently encountered in shallow water. Washington State's Puget Sound and the Pacific coast of Canada. One of the best places to photograph and study the sharks at scuba diving depths is British Columbia's Hornby Island. Rob Zielinski and Amanda Heath operate a busy scuba diving business on Hornby Island, and six gills are their #1 attraction. Despite the cold seas and sometimes challenging diving conditions, the animals generate enormous interest.
The main reason that people come to Hornby is to see the six-gill sharks. They're a real draw here in the summer. We cater to about 500 diving tourists in the course of May to September. And all of those people come with the intent of seeing the six gills if they're lucky enough to do so. Hornby Island is a unique location in that it's one of the few places in the world where we can observe six gills in water shallow enough to scuba dive in. In many cases, they're found at depths of several thousand feet, which is unreachable by people under most circumstances. Sport diver tourists come here, as well as scientists, film crews, still photographers, etc., who are interested in an opportunity to see the six-gill in its natural habitat.
Researcher Dr. Robert Dunbrack of Newfoundland's Memorial University searches for clues to the behavior and biology of these enigmatic sharks. Each summer aboard his research vessel, the Stalvik, Dunbrack travels to tiny Flora Islet off the coast of Hornby Island. Six gills and their unusual habits pose many intriguing questions, but simply finding the elusive animals is the first of many challenges.
It was much more difficult than we originally thought it might be to work on the six gills. We thought we could just do a bit of diving and the six gills would be there and we could make behavioral observations in a way that we might do on, let's say, polar bears or some sort of terrestrial mammal. The study site that we settled on was on Flora Islets off Hornby Island. We spent a few days there on our research vessel looking for sharks and didn't see anything, and we were prepared then to leave and go and find another site. But on our last dive, we saw 8 sharks in one dive, so that as soon as we saw that, we decided this was a place to do the work. The unanswered question about these sharks, of course, is why are they coming into shallow water? They're deep water sharks. They're known virtually throughout all the oceans of the world, but only from deep waters. Well, a natural thing to conclude is that they're coming in to feed, because this is what animals have to do most of the time, is look for food, but we have no evidence that they are feeding. It's not known whether they feed at night and maybe come onto the reef during the day for some other reason.
Dunbrack quickly realized that direct observation of the animals was very difficult. Depth and time constraints, cold water and currents, and finally locating the sharks on the deep reef made research a daunting task. To aid in his studies, he devised 2 ingenious yet simple methods of observing and recording six gills and their behavior.
We have built a time-lapse video system that allows us to put a video camera down. It takes pictures 4 frames every 10 seconds or so. On a single film, we're able to get 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the time of year. It's just a daylight system. We also have set up a stereo system which consists of 2 video cameras that are cabled directly to the surface. They look over the same area, they're facing down off the reef wall, and so the sharks will swim underneath these 2 cameras. And based on the geometry of the cameras, we can actually get measurements, direct measurements of the size of the sharks as they pass underneath, and also their swimming speed, which we can use for metabolic studies.
That's right. That's the moment of truth. It's dry.
Early in the summer field season, Dunbrack made a curious discovery. Harbor seals and stellar sea lions, prey for other large sharks, were interacting with the six gills. Video monitors and time-lapse cameras revealed the startling behavior.
And what was that being? Oh, that's interesting. That's a seal right there, chasing him. I don't believe this. Wow, it's amazing. Seal's directly underneath the shark, sort of coming underneath him, is sort of buzzing him.
Six-gill sharks are not known to feed on seals or sea lions. It appears that the playful mammals are simply curious about their large visitors from the deep. In recent years, fossil remains of prehistoric relatives of six-gill sharks have been discovered on Hornby Island. Over 25 species of mostly deep-water sharks from the Cretaceous period have been identified from fossilized remains. Fossil shark teeth are very common, but they're usually attributed to shallow water species. These puzzling clues appear to suggest that six gills and many other deep water sharks frequently ventured into shallow seas.
Within a stone's throw of the site where we were watching these sharks swim around, there are fossils of the sharks that have been there over 65 million years ago. And looking at the teeth of those species, they're virtually indistinguishable from the teeth of the fish that we were looking at. Within the last 100 million years or so, they probably haven't changed much at all.
With the collapse of many traditional commercial fish stocks, six gills were briefly considered a viable new fishery. But with little knowledge of their population, reproductive and growth rates, this ill-conceived plan was put on hold.
Trying to run a fishery on a species like the six-gill is very problematic. It's a large fish, it's certainly long-lived and has very low rates of reproduction, so the sustainable exploitation rates would be very low. So a large shark that might be 60 to 100 years old might fetch just a few dollars. Whereas we do know for a fact that this species probably brings in several $1 million a year just to the dive tourism industry as a living resource. The more people that interact with the sharks in a passive manner as divers and get a positive experience, the better it is really going to be for the shark.
Despite many unanswered questions and an uncertain future, six-gill sharks inspired tremendous respect from both scientists and scuba divers.
Rob and I consider ourselves to be very lucky in that we're members of a very small select group that have seen a live six-gill swimming in its natural habitat. It's something that many people can never dream of doing. It's an exciting thing to see this shark moving in its environment.
It's really hard to describe the feelings that you have when you first encounter them. To put it in terrestrial terms, it would be similar to going through a hike on the west coast and running into the elephants and the giant sloths that used to live there 12,000 years ago. It seems like a throwback to times when animals were bigger and more plentiful on these reefs. And it's a very stirring experience. There's virtually nothing that we know about this species, so anything that we get is going to be useful, and there's so much to know. It's something that could keep us going for many, many, many years.
Many of us don't scuba dive or even snorkel. What better way to satiate our curiosity than to view sharks through 6 inches of glass? Shark encounters are not the exclusive domain of scuba divers and marine biologists. The animals are also top attractions in zoos and aquariums. The public fascination with sharks is deeply rooted. People of all ages are mesmerized by the sleek and powerful fish. At the Atlantis Resort on Paradise Island in the Bahamas, sharks are a crowd favorite. You can even rocket down a water slide or river raft through the middle of their Mayan shark tank.
I think the reason why people are so fascinated by sharks is because a lot of people don't know about sharks. They have a lot of misconceptions about sharks. They think sharks are these big, scary animals that as soon as you get into the water, they're going to attack you. Economically, live sharks are much more valuable than dead sharks because they bring guests here. They want to see sharks, and it also adds an educational value because it's much easier to teach somebody about sharks and how valuable they are if they can actually see something that's living. I think people appreciate that much more than they would seeing a specimen or just a photograph in a book.
A rash of shark attacks in Florida and Hawaii led state authorities there to ban the practice of baiting sharks. But instead of decreasing attacks, the bans have proven to be ineffective. The same number of people were bitten in the past few years as there were before the bans were implemented. Although shark diving does attract and perhaps alter the behavior of a few animals, feedings usually take place in deeper water, a long way from beaches and swimmers. Dr. Eric Ritter and others believe that shark baiting and chumming is a potential factor in attacks, but not because of scuba divers.
I would say about 80 to 90% are caused by sport fishing. What they create is a very hazardous situation around themselves by chumming the water, by hooking fish. Sharks pick it up. You have people in the water frolicking. Until we find a way to reduce some of the sport fishing habits, we will always have the same number of shark bites on a yearly basis here in Florida. If the ban really would have done what they predicted, meaning no accidents anymore, then at least it would be safer, but we still have the same accident rate each year.
I definitely feel that organized shark feeding, done properly, is safe. And it definitely raises awareness of this animal's plight and raises awareness of the animal's fragility, and it's a myth destroyer. As an animal that's been on this planet for close to 500 million years, that has been brought to the verge of extinction in the past 20 years. And he's being wiped out at such a tremendous rate. You remove the shark, you suddenly turn our oceans in a very, very short period of time into a septic system. Our oceans are in trouble. If we don't protect this animal, then all of us lose. Everybody. And what a sad thing. I want my kids to see what I saw today.
Despite their strength and predatory skill, sharks are remarkably fragile creatures. Conservation efforts have traditionally had little support or enforcement. They aren't as cute and cuddly as dolphins or as majestic as whales. After all, on rare occasions, they do kill people. We are slowly coming to realize that sharks are integral members of the ocean food chain. We're learning that while a dead shark may bring a few dollars to a fisherman one time, a live shark may generate thousands of dollars in annual tourist revenue. And best of all, the shark is allowed to live. Perhaps scuba divers and other eco-tourists can ultimately play a key role in preserving these vital species. These strange and flamboyant creatures are cephalopods, a diverse group of animals that includes squid, octopus, and cuttlefish. Close relatives of primitive invertebrates such as snails, cephalopods are far more than just simple slugs. They have highly developed brains, superb vision, and tentacles with powerful suctioning discs. But their most remarkable trait is their ability to communicate. With complex visual signals and posturing, some cephalopods appear to speak to each other. Each summer, a dedicated group of scientists converge on Bonaire, a tiny island in the southern Caribbean Sea. Theirs is a revolutionary quest to discover if common reef squid are capable of language. In the final frantic weeks of their short lives, reef squid appear to read and write distinct messages on their shimmering skin. These foot-long mollusks, like humans, are thought to employ a creative, symbolic, and visual language. It is difficult to imagine creatures more alien and unlike humans. Cephalopods have blue blood, 3 hearts, and use jet propulsion to navigate through the sea. Theirs is the most advanced nervous system of any invertebrate. They are wily magicians of the deep, the octopuses, cuttlefish, and squid. Tentacles are basically arms without bones. These dexterous limbs are utilized for mobility, exploration, or capturing prey. The rest of a cephalopod's body is made up of a muscular sac called a mantle, which contains their 3 hearts, brain, and other internal organs. Cephalopod in Latin literally means head-footed. Octopus, squid, and cuttlefish belong to the phylum Mollusca, a group of soft-bodied animals that includes clams and snails. Unlike many of their simpler relatives, cephalopods have lost their external shells through the millennia of evolution. "400 million years ago, their armored ancestors ruled the seas. These were the ammonites, and the oceans once teemed with them. But evolution seems to have passed them by. Only the primitive nautilus, a living fossil, has retained a protective outer shell. We don't know how ammonites became extinct or why most cephalopods evolved without protective shells. What we do know is that these animals can exhibit an astonishing repertoire of behaviors. They appear to be smart.
The evolutionary answer to why octopuses and squid are more intelligent than other invertebrates is probably because while they are derived from mollusks, they have evolved away from using the molluscan shell. A good, big, solid shell is a great place to hide in. And if you're hiding all the time, you don't have to think. As soon as you get out from the shell, you are what some people have described as bait. Anything can get you. Anything is interested in getting you, and you don't have any built-in protection. Probably not the only way, but an excellent way to get around the problem of not having any protection anymore is to have smarts.
The background of these guys is pretty simple. Squid are cephalopods. That means they're mollusks, but they're really unusual mollusks. They don't.
Dr. Jennifer Mather is a professor of psychology at the University of Lethbridge in Alberta.
It's a very short lifespan. So they go from this big hatched to this big doing mating games in less than a year and a half.
The crystalline waters of the Dutch Antilles are a long way from the prairies of Western Canada.
Up to the surface.
Caribbean reef squid are perplexing subjects, considering Mather's primary field of study is human psychology. Her master's thesis dealt with a small species of octopus, while her doctorate examined the eye movements of schizophrenics, an unlikely pairing of research topics. Each summer, along with an enthusiastic team of scientists, Dr. Mather travels to Bonaire and its splendid coral reefs. Her ambition is revolutionary: to learn if Sepioteuthis sepioidea, a common species of reef squid, is capable of the most highly evolved of behaviors: language. American Martin Moynihan was the first biologist to present the controversial theory that reef squid might use visual language. But he passed away before proving his theory. Mather's mission: to prove Moynihan right.
There's 2 reasons I chose the Caribbean reef squid for this long-term project. The first one is a really simple one. Martin Moynihan in the early 1980s said that he believed that the squid might make a visual language on their skin. Now this is a really big idea. Humans have language, and clearly monkeys have the ability to make a reasonable, primitive type of human language. If this were a third language in the animal kingdom, this would be big news. This is a really big question to tackle. Let me see if I can go and crack this particular nut. People often ask me, why are you in a psychology department studying octopuses and squid? Why do you go running off to the reef and watch animals? Does that really have anything to do with humans? And the answer is yes, it does have something to do with humans.
Oh, great fun.
The area that I'm really interested in is what has been described as comparative cognition. And that's trying to understand how thinking works by looking at thinking in animals other than humans. Now, a lot of people do it by saying, okay, well, we'll look at how monkeys think. What I'm looking at is really something quite different. What I'm saying is, okay, let's take the most intelligent invertebrate, because the octopuses and squid are way ahead of the other invertebrates. They have to have developed intelligence quite differently.
In the azure waters of the southern Caribbean Sea lies a tiny island renowned as an environmental success story, Bonaire. This idyllic outpost's marine sanctuary is recognized as a world leader in coral reef conservation. The entire undersea ecosystem surrounding the island is protected as a national park of the Netherlands Antilles. Jennifer Mather visited several other Caribbean destinations before choosing Bonaire as a base of operations for her research. The squid are conveniently accessible from shore and are spared the destructive effects of commercial fishing and pollution.
When you decide you want to work with an animal in the field, you have to solve a lot of practical problems before you can go work with them. Researchers go to all sorts of strange places to do work. And some of them go half an hour's hike through the bush, and some of them go up to mountains, and some of them go out in the open ocean in big research vessels. And we wanted something that would be relatively simple. We wanted to be able to go from the shore. We wanted to go to a place where we could find the animals. We wanted to go to a place, too, where animals would be safe.
We have to get up early and work hard at a time when people like James are semi-conscious, because that's when the animals are active, and that's what we came to study.
I'm a morning person myself, so it's no problem, but some of these others are kind of hard to get up out of bed.
I'm basically nocturnal like octopuses are, if left on my own. But in the morning they are all coming back together and sorting things out again. So we're here. We need to be here. That's when all the activity is. A lot of it anyway.
Mather is joined in the expedition by an eclectic group of researchers. Roland Anderson is the Puget Sound curator of the Seattle Aquarium. Ulrike Griebel is a cognitive and evolutionary researcher from the University of Vienna. She is accompanied by graduate student Ruth Ann Byrne.
I saw a spermatophore.
The final member of the team is James Wood of the National Resource Center for Cephalopods in Galveston, Texas.
I'm very fascinated with cephalopods. Well, first of all, they're invertebrates, so they're related to things that don't have brains, and some of them don't even have heads. Yet, they're a group that behaviorally is more similar to something like a fish than to a snail. They can change color, shape, and texture better than anything else on the planet. I mean, you might think of a chameleon, but chameleons use hormones, and that has to go through the blood system, and then it takes a few seconds. These animals, this is all neurally controlled, so they think it, and they're that. So they can change what they look like many times in 1 second.
I got involved in the reef squid study here through Dr. Jennifer Mather, who is the team leader of this project. She and I met at a conference back in 1986, and we've been friends and colleagues ever since. A few years ago, she asked me if I'd like to come down here and help her study the reef squid. I jumped at the chance.
I'm seeing new stuff every year. I'm coming here now for the 4th year, and I always see new patterns, new combinations of patterns, new behaviors. I think that they need this complex signal language because they are social. As soon as animals are social and live in groups, they need to communicate. This is also the driving force for intelligence, also in mammals. The most intelligent mammals are found among the social mammals. And the same is happening here in the cephalopods.
The group's fieldwork is quietly fascinating, but requires patience. Their research demands hours of snorkeling in unobtrusive observation. Individual animals are identified by distinctive scars and skin patterns, and each behavior is recorded for later analysis. Caribbean reef squid are not the species favored by chefs and seafood fans. They are slightly larger and darker in appearance than the restaurant variety. Journalists have branded Mather the Jane Goodall of calamari.
We noticed personalities in these animals, and we found that there were dramatic differences between individuals such that you could describe them in terms of human personalities or perhaps human temperament. It's almost impossible not to think of them in terms of the human roles. That's why we use this flirting at the bar. That's why we talk about going all the way, making it. From time to time, we talk about it as a soap opera because we have all the characters, we have all the situations that you could possibly have in a soap opera.
The squid practice a daily routine as timeless as the coral reefs themselves. At night, they disperse to hunt alone. Each day at dawn, small groups of animals gather at precisely the same spot. Early morning is the time for mating games, and this is when things get interesting. They gather together for a few hours of greetings, jousting, courting, and of course, sex. Foreplay may last for hours, but the mating act itself is, suffice to say, quick.
Probably the most important behavior that these squid do when they're gathered in these daytime groups is their reproductive behavior. As they come together, females are the first ones to let everybody know they're interested. What we notice is that the females rise above the group. They go pale on all of their mantle except just a strip around the front margin, which is kind of a warm brown. When we saw that one, we decided to call it saddle because it looked as if the brown was a saddle around the animal, almost like it was waiting for a rider. When someone is doing something interesting in return, it's probably a male doing stripe. That seems to be the first exchange of visual signals indicating interest in mating in the future. When he's really interested in doing a mating, he'll do a display called a flicker. We call it the flicker because it's on-off, pale dark, pale dark, pale dark. It's so fast that in fact we haven't been able to dissect it and find out how often or to find out whether it's all the body at once. But when he does that, it seems to be a fairly honest signal of intent to mate, if she lets him. If a male squid in a school flickers, they have the equivalent of what I say, all hell breaks loose. It's a clear signal that everything's going to happen. Squid are going to zoom all over the school. Other squid are going to come in and try to interfere with it. And if the squid are lucky, they're starting the next generation. The other thing that happens when a male flickers is that it alerts other males to the fact there's an interesting situation coming in here. So they'll do a challenge. They'll do a challenge with the zebra display and coming up beside perhaps in special postures. Often, in order to do anything about having the opportunity to mate, he has to fight off the interfering other males.
After 4 years of study, the scientists have concluded that reef squid exhibit approximately 20 distinctive displays, many of which revolve around reproduction. Each of these displays may involve hundreds of individual components, and there are perhaps thousands of subtle variations. Specialized cells in cephalopod skin, called chromatophores, contain pigment-filled sacs. Additional layers of cells, iridophores and leucophores, differentially reflect and alter the appearance of incoming light. The three groups of cells work together to form the startling color and pattern changes exhibited by these animals.
Next week, I think we're going to have to do an all-day watch on one group and sort of start at dawn and have relays of people coming in, watch for an hour, get out, watch for an hour, get out.
Do you think that she didn't want him to mate her? I mean, do you think that's why she was doing the zebra?
Well, she did the zebra right at him. So, and she kept the distance, too. I mean, she wasn't with him. She was 2 or 3 feet.
Once back at their research headquarters, the team analyzes each morning's observations.
I counted 17 today.
Individual files cover a wide range of behaviors, including flickers, saddles, and zebra displays. The squid provide the researchers with an endless amount of information and behaviors that must be quantified, sorted, and assigned grades of intensity.
Anytime you see that green or blue, the pinkish color too, that's iridophores, yeah. It's a really neat system. It's not studied. The various displays can be sort of quantified and sort of assigned numbers depending on the intensity, whether it was on a quarter of the animal or half the animal or all the animal. For example, the zebra display, the arms can be together, which is kind of a low intensity thing where they can be completely spread out, which is more of a high intensity. The zebra display can be on only half the animal, so that can be quantified. We just have an incredible amount of information that we get from these animals. Reef squid are very good at communication. Whatever they're doing is obviously very complex and has a lot of different components.
Oh, hello. It's a
Basic
female. Which
brown.
ones?
Most observations of the squid are made while snorkeling, which has its limitations.
Let's see, this is a nice saddle stripe.
With the luxury of a camera team recording them and their subjects, the researchers had a rare opportunity to view their charges up close.
And notice there's a fin-based stripe on the underguy.
Both of them have.
Both of them have.
You can see the internal organs there too.
Now she's doing zebra on the left arm. Can we go back on that a bit? See, look at that lower spread and the upper spread.
Boom. It's really interesting during the day how they're often this basic brown color, which really stands out against the white background. But in the early morning and at night, they're often light colored like this, which is much more camouflaged.
Now see, when they're maneuvering, they've both got zebra on white. And it's only after they settle for over.
Photographing the tiny reef squid and their mating behavior proved to be a difficult task. The skittish animals, however, eventually became comfortable, even oblivious to the presence of the divers. Cinematographer Neil McDaniel captured images of behaviors of which little is known. Egg-laying is the final act of a frantic and all too short life.
When a female's laying eggs, it's really, of course, the culmination of reproduction. And it's a very interesting situation in these animals. Now, biologists talk about this a lot. Who is it who controls who gets their genes in the gene pool? And in the case of the Caribbean reef squid, it looks as if the female has an awful lot of control. Because, of course, when a male does the flicker and he transfers the spermatophores to her, it's her choice whether or not to take them and put them inside her mantle cavity. And then, since she's stored the sperm, it's her choice about when to fertilize the eggs with which sperm. Both males and females will die after reproduction. And it's a very short lifespan. We talk about them as having a motto of live fast, die young.
An attending male guards the female throughout egg-laying. He tries to mate with her right before and even during the process to give his seed an advantage over that of his rivals. After carefully selecting a coral ledge with suitable protection from the elements and predators, the female lays up to 50 strings or fingers of eggs.
She squeezes down underneath the rock and she deposits an egg string on the rock. Then she comes back out again. It looks as if she takes a deep breath and goes, that one was hard. And then another 5 minutes later, on average, she'll do another egg string. They start out life as eggs. There's no parental care whatsoever, and the male contributes nothing except sperm.
In only a few short weeks, the eggs hatch and tiny squidlets venture into the water column. From birth, each is prepared to assume the role of marine hunter. Yet they too must run a gauntlet of predators to reach maturity. In the cold waters of British Columbia, the world's largest octopus appears to have little need for the complex visual signaling used by reef squid. The giant Pacific octopus lives a mostly solitary life, and its reproductive strategy is quite different. Like reef squid, females accept sperm sacs from males to fertilize their eggs. But instead of abandoning her brood, she stays behind to tend the nest in a very motherly fashion.
Before she uses the sperm to fertilize her eggs, she seals off a den, produces 57,000 eggs, glues them in strings to the top of her den, and then grooms them for 6 or 6.5 months until they're ready to hatch. During the entire period that the female's there, she does not leave, nor does she feed. And so her body weight will go from something around 15 or 18 kilos down to 5 or 7 kilos when she dies. So she'll lose more than 50% of her body weight. Out of the nest that the female lays, if the population is going to stay stable, all you need is 2 to survive. They just basically replace the parents. So out of 57,000, which is the average for a female nest, you're only going to get 2 surviving. More than that, the population increases. Fewer than that, the population decreases. And right now, it looks like British Columbia's population is very stable.
James Cosgrove of the Royal British Columbia Museum has spent many years studying the reproductive behavior of these intriguing animals.
One of the most surprising things I've learned from my research was that the animals are such short-lived animals. It seems unfortunate that evolution would have developed such a magnificent animal, allowed it to grow up to 20 or 30 kilos, only to have it mate, lay its eggs, and die in a period of less than 4 years.
On the Gulf Coast of Texas, the research vessel Marie Hall departs from Galveston Bay. Researcher John Forsyth is fishing for food for his captive cephalopods. A bottom trawl is used to capture live shrimp, crabs, and fish. Small bay squid are also taken as a bycatch. They are transferred to a holding tank for the trip back to shore. Squid, octopuses, and cuttlefish dislike processed or dead food. They prefer to stalk and capture their prey, much as they do in the wild. Most cephalopods do very well in captivity, and these European cuttlefish exhibit many visual signals similar to those of Caribbean reef squid. In captive environments, they display all the behaviors of wild animals, including mating and egg laying. At the National Resource Center for Cephalopods in Galveston, squids, octopuses, and cuttlefish are raised in a closed seawater system. Eggs, darkly pigmented with melanin, are collected and transferred to special tanks. Each marble-sized egg contains a single animal that hatches in only a few short weeks. These tiny cuttlefish are perfect replicas of their parents. The cephalopods are primarily utilized as marine lab rats and shipped to researchers across North America. Like their rodent counterparts, these cuttlefish provide scientists with valuable insights into human physiology.
The reason cephalopods are so interesting is that much of the research we're helping to support is really ultimately aimed at understanding human diseases. But scientists find that going to a human or even a vertebrate is very difficult because the systems are so small and so sophisticated, it's a hard place to begin. So you move down the animal kingdom until you can find a sufficiently sophisticated system that you can begin to understand and ask good questions. And cephalopods, we find, are an interesting place to stop because they have very large elements of their physiology, be it the nervous system or the circulatory system or their brain or their eyes. The processes that are discovered there seem applicable to much more sophisticated systems like vertebrates, even all the way up to humans. This is the premier model in understanding how a living nerve cell can transmit an electric signal down its length. And when you consider that we don't have copper wire inside of us, it really is a miracle that electrical signals can move down living tissues.
Back from his fieldwork in Bonaire, Dr. James Wood updates the website that he developed to share cephalopod research. His office is crammed with toy octopuses and squids, a testament to his fascination with these animals. A skilled photographer, he carefully examines his underwater images for new clues to the visual language of the reef squid. It's clear that cephalopods have varying degrees of visual communication. The intensely social reef squid are the most expressive, while more solitary animals, such as octopus, seem to have less need for communication. The complexity of the squid visual displays studied by Jennifer Mather are indeed remarkable. But do they represent a language? Are these squid really able to talk? John Forsyth and James Cosgrove offer differing perspectives on the intelligence and communication skills of cephalopods.
There's no question that they're dazzling animals with a broad range of behaviors. To say an animal is intelligent, the best sort of definition or handle I've been able to put on it is to imagine that when an animal's born, you're born with a floppy disk that has so much code written on it, and that code is your behavior or your response to the world around you. I think the question of intelligence will be answered in cephalopods when we can show that the cephalopod can take that floppy disk of behavioral or life options and begin writing new code that wasn't there the day they hatched out. In other words, synthesizing new information into new responses that it didn't possess on the day it hatched. And that, to me, is the beginning of saying, yes, these animals are intelligent. There's no question that these animals are communicating with one another, primarily through visual signaling in their skin, but also their body posturing and their body movements. Reproduction, of course, is a very important area to be able to communicate in for any animal. Squids just don't randomly run into each other and mate and then move on. In all the hundreds of hours I've been able to spend watching them, I've never seen a predator get even close to a school of squid. They're gone long before that, so they're extremely effective in that type of communication. Take this to the level of is it a language, is there syntax, or is there sentence structure to the way they communicate? That's very sophisticated and very difficult to get at. I don't think there are many of us ready to just yet say that's the way they structure their communication, but there's no doubt that they do make certain decisions very clearly known to one another.
The definition of cephalopod intelligence is a difficult one because we're putting human values on an animal that doesn't live in our environment. When we look at squids and cuttlefishes, we see a lot of visual communication there, and it's very clear that messages are passed back and forth. There is communication happening in that not only is the squid the sender of the message, it's also a receiver of the message, and that's what communication is.
It is well known that cephalopods can change color and texture more quickly than any animal. But the theories of the scientists in Bonaire take this behavior many steps further. Jennifer Mather believes the signals between reef squid to be the most complex visual display system among invertebrates. If the signals prove to be encoded with intelligent design, then Jennifer may have discovered something truly remarkable.
In terms of do these squid communicate with each other when they're in the groups and they're sending out these displays, this has to be answered by the simple step of saying what happens afterwards. And I've done some analyses about what happens afterwards. And yes, after these displays, other things happen reliably. So that's the answer of do they communicate? Yes, they're communicating to each other. Do I always know just exactly what the shades of meaning are? Lots to learn about that. The second part of the question of how are squid communicating is clearly, was Moynihan right? Do they have a language? And what I have to say at this point is they're so complicated, I can't tell you yet. I'm beginning to gather the basics of the simplest signals. And remember, sexual signals should be simple. I know that in terms of communication, anything that a squid wants to say, it will do not simply, but in a complex way. So there's definitely the background there that they could make a language. It's going to take a long time because it's such a complex thing, because it's such a complex and intelligent animal. There's lots and lots to learn. 4 years is just scratching the surface.
It may be a few more years before Jennifer Mather can ultimately prove that reef squid are capable of language. There is, however, one thing that is absolutely certain about cephalopods. They generate enormous fascination from a very passionate group of scientists.
You know, I think most marine biologists are attracted to something, and sometimes you don't know exactly why, but you're drawn to something, you begin looking at it, and for 25 years, I haven't been able to stop wondering about this animal group. With fishes, I'm not really sure if fish is looking at me. You know, it's hard to tell. But a cuttlefish or an octopus, when you're looking at it in an aquarium, it is looking at you. You're being observed as much as you are observing. There's just new books, new pages, new stones to be turned over that even I can't even imagine right now. But that's what drives a biologist, is knowing that an animal group that you know very well still has those magical mysteries to show to you.
I'm crazy about cephalopods because they're smart, and they're different smarts than our smarts, and I'm still trying to understand it. Lots of researchers find that they spend a lifetime with one species because they find that the closer they get to them, the more they get to know them, the more there is to know. And that's the kind of thing I have with these guys. I'm also nuts about the squid because they're gorgeous to watch. I love watching the flashes. I love watching the color changes. They're beautiful animals. We don't just do it because it's absorbing and it's fascinating. We also do it because it's great fun.
Cephalopods are an amazing group of animals. Species we once considered frightening are proving to be intelligent and wonderfully adapted to their undersea habitat. By evolving with superb communication skills, cephalopods have become less like their simpler cousins and more like fish and perhaps even mammals. What they have accomplished is a remarkable ability to survive, even prosper, in a harsh environment. In nature, of course, that's the name of the game.
Sharks are big business in adrenaline ecotourism. And some thrill seekers deliberately pursue close encounters with deadly sharks. Divers are pushing the boundaries of human and shark interaction, baiting with fish carcasses and blood, inciting feeding frenzies, all in a quest to get ever closer to creatures that can kill them.
Harry! Jesus Christ!
After an injury ended his career, professional bull rider Eli Martinez founded Shark Diver magazine, and he also organizes excursions for shark enthusiasts. And there's no shark dive more exciting or dangerous than Tiger Beach in the northern Bahamas.
Nautilus Explorer, Nautilus Explorer.
Captain Mike Lever's most popular trips feature encounters with great white sharks. At Mexico's Guadalupe Island, he's trying something completely different, introducing young children to sharks. In 2008, the first tourist on a commercial shark diving expedition was killed by a shark. The death ignited a firestorm of controversy. Shark advocates and shark attack victims Eric Ritter and Chuck Anderson have grave reservations about how far we are willing to go for a thrill. It's reasonable to assume most people would want to avoid sharks. But some scuba divers and snorkelers pay big bucks to get up close and personal with the animals. The bigger and more dangerous the shark, the better. Shark encounters are becoming one of the most popular attractions in the sport, with or without the protection of a cage. We've gone from being very, very afraid of sharks to having an almost cavalier attitude about them. But have we taken shark diving a bit too far? Many scuba divers are asked if they're afraid of sharks. They're frightening creatures to most of us, but for some people, getting close to dangerous sharks is exactly what they're hoping for. Simply swimming in the ocean means we've become part of the food chain. You can say the same about a walk in the woods, but at least we're in our element, above the water. For shark divers, there is something primal and enticing about entering an alien world where sea monsters lurk. Perhaps the best place to scuba dive with one of the most dangerous sharks is in the Atlantic Ocean in a remote corner of the Bahamas. In the tropics, there isn't a bigger or badder predator than the tiger shark. In terms of the number of attacks on humans and fatalities, they are second only to great whites. The largest one ever caught was 24 feet long. It's a contender with the great white as the largest predatory fish in the sea. At West Palm Beach, Florida, Shark Diver magazine publisher Eli Martinez has organized a one-week expedition to the northern Bahamas to scuba dive with big sharks. A former rodeo cowboy, Martinez suffered a career-ending injury shortly after turning professional. He then took his passion for dangerous animals to a new extreme.
I spent 6 years riding bulls and doing the rodeo circuit. And it was on one of my stops when I got my pro permit and I started going to pro events that I cracked my hip. And I was out for 2 months. So I decided to get my diving certification and went on a dive trip, and I'm dropping down and I saw a shark, and that was it. Basically hung up my spurs literally, and I started chasing sharks after that.
Okay, you're clear.
After motoring overnight from the Florida coast and clearing Bahamian immigration, the liveaboard diving vessel Dolphin Dream headed north to remote Tiger Beach. Captain Wayne Smith is credited with discovering Tiger Beach and first introducing scuba divers to tiger sharks.
Well, I've been coming out here 27 years now, and we came to this area and we anchored up because it was a shallow, protected area. Sometimes at night we'd have some dead carcasses and we'd throw them in the water and they'd come up and start feeding on them. And after a while, there's got to be such high demand for people wanting to see tiger sharks that we started running these trips.
Everybody, welcome to Tiger Beach. As you can see, we already have a bunch of lemon sharks swimming around. We prefer everybody dive in twos so that somebody can watch your back while you're in the water. Once you jump in, just keep your hands here. Don't start waving them around or splashing. Other than that, we already got sharks here. The pool is open.
Gotta get in there. This is what we nutty people do. This is what it's for.
Yeah, my jailhouse tat. I didn't actually get it in jail.
Any last words, Neil?
Look after my wife and children.
When I I started wearing the hat was to save my hair, and it kind of became my trademark. So I never dive without it. The only time I don't is when it's really, really cold and I gotta wear a hoodie, but I'm still trying to figure out how I can make that work.
Dozens of lemon sharks are a constant presence at Tiger Beach. They're not generally considered aggressive, but they are implicated in over 20 non-fatal attacks on humans. Many sharks, including lemons, can be dangerous given the right conditions. A beautiful animal with piercing cat-like eyes, they are part of the requiem family, which includes other well-known species such as tiger and blue sharks. The animal everyone is here to see is the tiger shark. Although not endangered, they are very rarely encountered while scuba diving. It takes some time for the tiger sharks to venture in from the fringing coral reef. They seem at first to be relatively uninterested in the divers or the lemon sharks. But on the first dive of the first day, tiger sharks eventually came closer and made their presence known in a big way.
Holy crap. Man, I've done some scary my day, but that one takes the cake. You didn't want to know what was happening behind you. Did they follow me up? I was rolling on one, it came right behind you. Tiger? Yeah, took a little chew on your tank. There's nothing I could do about it. Oh, first dive, first day of the trip, I get bumped by 2 or 3 tiger sharks right in the lens, coming right at me. You were turned away from me, and this big tiger shark came swinging around, and he was coming toward me, and I'm kind of backing off. Then he swung in behind you, and I guess for some reason he decided your tank was something he'd like to investigate, so he went up and he just kind of mouthed it a little bit, and you're oblivious to the whole thing, of course. Those are big, rather impressive looking sharks, I gotta say that.
He really didn't bump anybody else, you know, he just came after your housing and you know, the tiger shark was just looking around for that food. He really couldn't find it. Probably saw the housing, was looking for potentially a meal or something and bumped it. But after that, he found what he was looking for and went after that.
To attract and keep the big sharks close, you have to use bait. A lot of bait. Most divers rarely see sharks. The animals don't make a habit of venturing close to humans with scuba tanks. Breathing compressed air is a noisy affair, and our relatively large size usually scares them away. To the sharks here, however, we're just another big predator down there for the same reason they are, for the food.
We get our fish from the fish market. It's stuff they were going to throw away. We feed that to the sharks, so it's a win-win for everybody. We recycle what they were going to normally throw away in the trash bin.
Go through about 250, 300 pounds of bait per day. You get a variety of bait. A lot of what we get is what the fish houses have left over, heads and backbones after they sell to the restaurants and the public. And then we also get some bait from some of the local fishing boats that get in these bonitas, which are real oily and bloody. And they're not a food fish. Nobody eats them as foods. They make excellent bait.
We constantly have to adapt the way we're feeding them because they're clever little devils. One of the ways we do that is with the wrangling. We tend to get them excited there at the surface. We get the lemons thrashing around because they're so eager to get the bait. And that thrashing around is what's bringing the tigers in these days.
You want big sharks, you use big bait. We're prepping a grouper head, and what we're going to do is we're going to wrangle in the sharks. We're going to hang this out the back and try to attract the tigers to the boat. We use big heads like this because if we use smaller pieces of fish, well, the sharks will kind of take it away real quick. They got a real thick bone in their heads, so we can last with this one piece of bait, and it'll keep us there for a while. The lemons have kind of dominated this place, but they're definitely smaller in the pecking order. When the tigers come in and they want to feed, you know, there's nothing's going to stop them. The lemons will definitely give them away, especially when a big 12, 14-foot tiger comes in. You know, the lemons will leave and get out of there. The big boss here has got to be the tiger shark, absolutely. You can see here that if a tiger shark can get his lower jaw on the bottom of this crate, I mean, he'll just snap it in half, and that's what he did here. One of the things that we're noticing is that these sharks have a learned behavior, at least the tiger sharks, where we're taking our crates down there and we're hanging them, and the tigers have learned to chew through the ropes that we have these crates hanging from so that they can grab these crates and swim off with them, and at their leisure figure a way to get inside to the bait that we have hanging. And yeah, it's definitely a learned behavior. A couple of local Bahamians coming off one of the small islands out there spearfishing. I don't think he knows this is tiger shark infested waters and these guys are out there spearfishing. Oh, what do you say about that? That's extreme. That's as gnarly as it gets. Jeez. I love my job.
Another day at the office.
Oh, yeah.
Beach riding bulls, huh?
Are you kidding me? I live for this.
Eli Martinez has found a unique niche in the scuba diving world. His magazine, Shark Diver, appeals to both armchair shark enthusiasts and to those looking for a slightly more hands-on approach.
After the magazine started, the reader trips kind of evolved. People started asking us, where do we go diving? Maybe they can meet up with us, or when's our next adventure? I organized our first shark trip, and it worked really well, and we had a blast. Out there in the real world, you know, you tell someone you're a shark diver, and everybody thinks you're crazy. Here, all these crazy people can get together, and no one thinks you're crazy anymore.
Martinez frequently dives with aggressive sharks and has many hair-raising video clips from his expeditions. Mako sharks are particularly fast and frightening and have very sharp teeth.
Well, here you can see the bite marks. This is actually after my last Mako shark dive. Makos are one of the few sharks that don't bump divers with a mouth closed. They actually go at divers mouth open. You can see the gouges from sharks as they really bite into the glass.
As the week progressed, the action at Tiger Beach ramped up, way up. Aggressive baiting and chumming were perhaps a bit too successful. A handful of tiger sharks became increasingly more bold. Eli had to eventually use his camera as a defensive tool to protect some of the divers. Sharks don't have hands or fingers, so they sometimes ram or nudge objects out of curiosity. And in worst-case scenarios, they may take an exploratory bite.
This is what it's all about. This is what you hope for, you know?
That was f***ing hairy. Jesus Christ.
I may have drifted into the other divers that were there, but I turned around and I'm looking straight at the face of a tiger shark, and he wasn't a small one either.
Those sharks came in, they came in hard, and it was intense. It got hairy there for a little while.
I think Eli was trying to come in to protect me because I'm filming one and this other one comes in. It got extremely hairy.
That's what you really want. You know, everybody came back, nobody got hurt, and everybody's got a big smile on their face.
Reviewing his tape after the last dive at Tiger Beach, Eli's video camera revealed an encounter that could have seriously gone wrong. This is one sequence destined for the highlight reel.
There we go. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. And again. And again. Gnarly, man. Talk about pucker factor. That is what shark diving is all about. That's what extreme shark diving is all about.
That was an outstanding dive. Absolutely outstanding. Tigers, 4 tigers, nipping at the tanks, biting the cage, the food cage. Outstanding. That's what it's all about. That's why we came out here. So, huge adrenaline rush. Huge.
Shark divers are a very small but growing community in the scuba diving world. They are a passionate group, and many are staunch advocates for shark conservation. But are they crazy? And do they take their hobby a bit too far?
It's exciting to get in and watch a shark in its natural habitat. And I did a lot of reef diving in that, and it kind of got boring after a while, and kind of wanted to start getting to the big stuff and get a little excitement back into it.
It's partly an adrenaline rush, but it goes a lot farther than that. It's hard to describe until you've actually dove with one or swam with one. They're just such beautiful animals. They're so graceful and powerful.
You know, the more you know about them, the less you fear them. And diving with tiger sharks is great.
I have done skydiving, I have done some mountain climbing, I do mountain biking, but nothing compares to it. Nothing compares to shark diving and that intense adrenaline rush you get when you first see a big shark in the water, much less 10 or 15.
I've been diving for a lot of years in a lot of different places, and I've experienced a lot of different kinds of sharks. But tiger sharks are right up there in the pucker factor. I mean, first big one you see, it's like, whoa.
Shark divers have a need for a little adrenaline rush, and you can kind of see it during these shark dives. If it's a real mellow shark dive, they're not real excited. But boy, when the sharks get excited, the people get excited.
You take someone that's never been in the water with a shark before, that has a positive experience in the water, they're going to come out as shark advocates, and they're going to be fighting for these animals, and they're going to talk about them in a different light. And that's extremely important because, you know, the world still looks at sharks as the only good shark is a dead shark. At the end of my days, you know, I would love to look back in my life and say, you know what, I saved a bunch of sharks. I did my part, and some sharks are still swimming out in the ocean.
The #1 species on every shark diver's list is the great white. And there's no better place on Earth to find them than Mexico's Guadalupe Island. There's no doubt sharks have an image problem. Razor-sharp teeth, the icy stare, bloody feeding frenzies. It's no wonder they've earned such a woeful reputation. And after all, they do occasionally kill people. No species has worse public relations issues than great whites. And no sharks are more popular with shark divers. About 250 miles west of Mexico's Baja Peninsula is the remote volcanic island of Guadalupe. port city of Ensenada, it's a journey of nearly 24 hours on the open ocean to reach Guadalupe. Approaching the intimidating coastline of the island, the first order of business is to prepare the shark cages.
Keep lots of tension on that line, okay? This is the one that's like a jigsaw puzzle. Here we go. That's it. Just rotate it around a little bit more, please. About 1,000 pounds of cage that we're lifting here. In open ocean with a wee bit of a swell going. My goodness. Just beautiful here. We put the cages in at night as soon as we get here. We like to get everything all organized and in the water just in case there's any kind of problems. It's nice to get everything tied up and to get the chum slick started and make sure that the white sharks know that we're here and we're ready for business at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Guadalupe is an arid and desolate outpost in the open Pacific. Towering cliffs and rugged mountains rise over 4,000 feet from sea level. 19th century whalers brought goats to Guadalupe as a source of fresh meat. The animals multiplied as intended and eventually destroyed most of the island's flora and fauna. Today, some of the few original inhabitants that remain are fur seals, sea lions, and elephant seals. And life here must be harsh. This is the realm of the great white. In the late 1990s, long-range fishing boats targeting tuna near Guadalupe began reporting that great whites were attacking their catches. Word spread like a chum slick.
Come on, here he comes. Oh, beautiful. Oh! The industry started here in 2000 when a boat called the Horizon showed up, and they had heard stories about sport fishing boats not being able to bring their fish in because the white sharks were taking all the tuna. More white sharks than anyone had seen anywhere. So we came down here on a whim. I wanted to see white sharks off the back of the boat. But we got down here, I jumped in the water, I saw these enormous, beautiful sharks. I couldn't believe how fantastic they were. It was just an amazing experience. And at that point, I knew that I wanted to keep on doing this. It was just no question in my mind. And we ramped up from 2 trips that first year to 9 to 10 trips a year.
Like the sharks at Tiger Beach, great whites at Guadalupe need to be coaxed with bait. And nothing piques their interest like tuna.
Shark baiting 101. You make it smelly, you make it bloody, you make it oily, you get all this good yummy stuff. You mix it up with your fingers and scrunch it up to get lots of blood. You make sure that you use animals that are endemic to the islands, mackerel and tuna. And we started chum slick. We do it in a very non-invasive way, but we make it as smelly and yucky as we possibly can. One way to make sure that your chum is nice and fresh. Take a little bit of chum just like this, and we'll see what the mackerel in the water do. Oh, look at that. Seagulls, mackerel, and a feeding frenzy. That is fresh tuna. Ready to go. Okay.
It's one thing to see a great white on television or from the safe confines of a boat. It's another experience entirely to see the animals in their natural element. There simply isn't a single creature on Earth that we're more afraid of.
big they are and how beautiful they are. I mean, they're not at all ferocious looking. They look like they're smiling at you until they open their mouth.
Captain Mike Lever has 2 young children with a keen interest in sharks, and he's now trying something completely different, introducing kids to white sharks. The inaugural children's trip at Guadalupe included 3 kids from Mexico and Mike and Marianne Lever's own children, Charlie and Emily.
What's your name?
Ernesto.
I know it's heavy, but once you get in the water, you won't really feel it. It's kind of help you sink a little. How does that feel?
Now you want to sit down there. How many sharks do you think you're going to see?
Supply. It's salty.
It's what?
Salty. Yes,
oh,
that's
it's salty. It is a little bit salty.
Where to go? All the way down. Go.
It didn't take long for the children to get the hang of breathing from a regulator. And once they started spotting sharks, the biggest challenge was dragging the kids out of the water.
Shark coming in! Left to right!
I don't recall what I was doing at 6 years old, but it wasn't diving with white sharks. I think it was like riding my tricycle around the street or something like that.
Well done! That was great! Charlie, it's someone else's turn now, okay? I know Charlie did not want to come up.
Every time a shark would come by, Charlie would be the first guy to go, oh, there's a shark right over there. He just did a fantastic job. I am so proud of him. I think he's just had an experience that he's never, ever going to forget.
I don't think any of them have had any trepidation at all. It's been fantastic. They've been in the cages, they've seen the sharks, they've tried to help out on the boat, they want to throw the bait, they want to do everything. I mean, that's, you know, if they go and tell 10 kids and 10 more kids, it can't be any better than that.
I saw 4.
Did you get cold at all?
Nope.
Not at all?
Nope.
I was freezing. I wanted to come out. She didn't want to come out. I gotta go to the bathroom. And she won't come out. And I kept saying up. She's like, no. Up? No.
Muy bien, mija. Pues vámonos para afuera.
We brought some kids out here. We're just wrapping the trip, and it succeeded beyond my wildest expectation. Every kid, every one of them, got in the cages, ended up spending hours and hours in the cages. We had to drag these shivering little 5- and 6-year-olds out of the water after an hour or two because they didn't want to come up. They just loved watching the sharks going by. And I can't wait to find out what happens when they get home and they start telling their friends.
Dr. Mauricio Hoyos is fascinated with great whites. There's no permanent research facilities on the island, so he teams up with tour boats as a ship's naturalist. He's particularly excited to be working on this inaugural children's trip.
When I was a kid, I remember that we went to the United States and my father gave me $20 and he told me, okay, this is all the money that I'm going to give you. You have to buy a lot of toys or whatever you want. And there was this small shark and it was $20. I bought it because I really wanted it. And my father was really upset because he told me, hey, that's all your money. You have to, you can buy a lot of different toys. No, I want that toy and I still have it. Because since I was a little kid, I loved sharks. When I saw the first shark, it was like the dream of my life came true. It was amazing. It was a huge female, maybe 4 meters long. And since then, I have been working here on this island every autumn.
To gain a better understanding of the shark's local movements and their long-distance migrations, Mauricio utilizes high-tech tools such as satellite tags and acoustic transmitters. These devices reveal startling data about how deep the sharks travel in search of prey. He's observed that smaller great whites at Guadalupe eat mainly tuna, rays, and other sharks, while the older and larger white sharks eat seals and sea lions. It would be extremely hazardous to acquire DNA samples or to implant transmitting devices in open water. Free swimming with great whites would be a challenge and a bit risky.
Okay, Jorge, shark, bring it, bring it. Put it right here, right here. Okay, excellent.
Outfitted with an acoustic or satellite tag, the sharks reveal their depths, migratory movements and locations, and even water temperatures. At Guadalupe, Mauricio uses acoustic technology to track local sharks. The white sharks at Guadalupe spend more than half of the year away from the island in open water between California and Hawaii. But what they're doing way out there remains a mystery. A few great whites have been satellite tracked to a remote region in the middle of the Pacific dubbed the Great White Cafe. It's thought that thousands of the sharks congregate each year at the mysterious spot. Whether they're mating, chasing tuna, or even giving birth, no one is sure. For such a remarkably well-known creature, we actually know very little about them. But Mauricio Hoyos is determined to find out more.
Well, the shark is not here. Maybe we can go a little bit to the north. Okay?
With the luxury of well-appointed tour boats and their state-of-the-art shark cages, Mauricio can also observe the sharks underwater. Photo ID is another tool in the young researcher's arsenal. Each shark has unique markings, scars, and patterns. With a bit of luck, Hoyos will have many more seasons at Guadalupe to answer some of the questions surrounding these intriguing animals. Guadalupe is a protected biosphere of Mexico, but with minimal funding or monitoring of the waters surrounding the island, the sharks are under constant threat from poachers. A set of mature white shark fins can fetch upwards of $25,000, and an intact jaw is an extremely valuable prize. It's an uphill battle convincing impoverished fishermen or foreign fishing fleets that white sharks here are more valuable alive than dead.
I love these animals, I really do. These white sharks are amazing. In the last 3 days, I've had my 5-year-old son and my 7-year-old daughter in the water with them, and it was just a thrill. And I can only hope that the sharks are still going to be here for them and for their kids and their kids' kids. Nothing could have given me a greater thrill than to have spent an hour and a half in the water with Charlie this morning, having him point out the white sharks to me. I'm very, very fearful that we're seeing the end of these and that even 5 years from now or 10 years from now, there won't be any sharks left.
If you don't relish an open ocean encounter with a big shark, you can now scuba dive or snorkel with them in Atlanta's Georgia Aquarium. One of the best places to snorkel or scuba dive with sharks is, surprisingly, the Georgia Aquarium. It's the #1 tourist attraction in Atlanta, and their 8 million gallon pool is now open. Divers and snorkelers can experience a fisheye view of their immense Ocean Voyager exhibit, home to some very interesting sharks.
The purpose of aquariums across the country, around the world, really is to inspire people to connect with nature. We want to take it to the next level. When you come to the Georgia Aquarium, you're guaranteed to see whale sharks and hammerheads and zebra sharks. It's one thing to look through a window, through glass to the animals. It's another thing to be able to get in the water, to be in their environment, to understand what it's like to be an animal in the ocean. If we can get people in there, they become conservationists. They care more.
In the summer of 2008, the Georgia Aquarium opened its main exhibit to scuba divers and snorkelers. The first groups to sign up provided a behind-the-scenes look at their experience.
Well, the first order of business is we're going to vote somebody off this island, okay? And I have immunity, so you guys have to look at each other and decide who you're going to vote off.
A thorough briefing covers safety issues for both the divers and the animals. Species identification, site orientation, and a short video are all part of the experience.
The tunnel and all the windows are made of acrylic material. Are you ready to go diving? Yes, sir. All right.
State-of-the-art scuba gear is prepared for the divers, but there's still one more briefing.
I'm going to run through a few things real quick just to give you a general idea of what's going on in our exhibit today. Also to give you a few guidelines for your safety and for the safety of our animals.
It is a rare treat indeed to scuba dive in an aquarium. Only a handful of facilities around the world allow the general public such intimate access to their exhibits.
Just pretty excited about it. I just hope they fed the sharks.
Many of the participants in the first few days of the program were celebrating birthdays or were signed up by friends or relatives as a gift. Others viewed it simply as a once-in-a-lifetime experience not to be missed.
Okay. I love you. That's great. Yes. Good birthday present.
You know, it's disconcerting to see your daughter at the bottom of a really large tank of water with a lot of fish. That looked kind of scary.
Although there are many unusual sharks in the Ocean Voyager exhibit, none are as immense or impressive as the whale shark. And there's not just one, there's 4, each the size of a small bus.
It's unbelievable. You know, you dive in the ocean and you have all this beautiful wildlife around you, but it's dispersed. It's kind of a condensed version of all the dives I think I've done before.
It's just an incredible experience to have that much wildlife all confined around you at one time. It's just exhilarating as heck.
That was unbelievable. It was not like anything I've ever done before. I've done a lot of diving, but this is the bomb here.
Scuba divers aren't the only people allowed to swim in the Ocean Voyager exhibit. Each day, a group of snorkelers goes through much of the same routine. But instead of descending to the bottom of the tank, they stay at the surface.
Check that off the bucket list. Swam with dolphins, now with whale sharks. That's good. Gotta squeeze them in. I'm 69 already.
In an aquarium, they're all well fed. There's no threat, there's no worry. They look at you, they ignore you. It's a great feeling, especially for a cameraman who doesn't have to worry about getting nipped in the open ocean. This is a great place. This is where I'm doing all my filming from now on.
Even though most shark dives are relatively safe, two prominent shark advocates think we may be taking things a bit too far. And they both survived brutal shark attacks. Dr. Eric Ritter has helped to dramatically change the popular perception of sharks from bloodthirsty killers to vital animals that need our protection. A leading authority on shark behavior, Ritter has spent thousands of hours in the water with sharks. He also devotes much of his time to forensic investigation of attacks, or as he prefers to call them, shark accidents. And Eric has intimate knowledge of the subject. After thousands of interactions with dangerous sharks, his luck finally ran out. In 2002, while filming a television special, he nearly died after a large bull shark bit his leg. Although he certainly pushed his luck many times, Ritter has serious reservations about how far some shark divers are now willing to go for a thrill.
When we go back to the early days of shark diving, you know, we were feeding the reef sharks and everybody was pretty much happy. But in the last few years, these adrenaline junkies, they want more, bigger and faster. And you know, now everybody seems to want to dive with tiger sharks, white sharks, big bull sharks, but it's not a safe scenario. In my opinion, it has gone way too far. It's not a question about if it ever happens, it's a question of when does it happen. And who will be blamed? The sharks.
Back home in Florida, one of Eric's new endeavors is the Shark Accident Victims Network. There's a growing need for psychological counseling of bite victims. And today, Ritter's traveling to neighboring Alabama to meet a potential mentor and fellow shark attack victim, Chuck Anderson.
Hey, Chuck. Hey, how you doing?
How you doing? Nice to meet you, finally.
Same here, finally, huh?
Doing okay?
Yeah, how about yourself?
Doing well.
A champion triathlete, Chuck Anderson was swim training for a national competition when a brutal encounter with a bull shark forever changed his life.
It was 6:38 a.m. in the morning, and I took about 2 more strokes in the water, and about that time, boom, it hit me from the bottom. And I started looking around, treading water, and I put my face down in the water, and when I did, it was coming up from the bottom at me. I just instinctively threw my hands out to push off of him, and when I did, he took all 4 fingers off my right hand, and all that was left was my thumb. Just like a surgeon's scalpel, it just cut them off clean. There was no pain at that stage of the game, so the fin actually was coming through the water at me. But as soon as he got past me, he was attached to my arm, and he immediately took me to the bottom. There's about 15 feet of water, and he went into that feeding frenzy where he was just gnashing from side to side, and dragging me across the bottom and, on the sand. All of a sudden, my feet started dragging the sand, and I wiggled out from underneath him, and when I did, I pulled real hard, and my arm just stripped off in his mouth, and I fell backwards into about thigh-high water and ran immediately to the beach, and knew that I was a very fortunate man when I got there. I had a big smile on my face, and the lady asked me what I was laughing at, and I said, Karen, I ought to be dead. I'm lucky.
A handful of high-profile shark attacks in 2008 created the usual media frenzy. But the death of the first tourist who actually paid for the privilege of scuba diving with sharks created a firestorm of controversy. Have we finally taken things too far?
To go to the extreme of trying to challenge the sharks, trying to bait the sharks to come around people and to pay money to do this, it's just not natural. I mean, if you're not educated in exactly what you're doing and you're a novice at it, then you're taking a risk. I'm not in favor of it. Each to his own. If somebody wants to get into it, then be aware of what the consequences could be, because I promise you, when a shark gets a hold of you, it's not a good experience.
This was the first fatality in our sport, and it's just something, you know, all of us hope never happens again. I think it made all of us more aware of what could happen. Accidents will change any industry. It makes, you know, us as shark operators more careful with our clients, with our friends, with the people we take in the water. I don't think shark diving has been taken too far. In fact, I don't even think we've scratched the surface yet. There's still a lot of things left to do in the water with these animals, still a lot of things left to learn, to see. I'm just tickled and excited to be part of that and to be part of helping to push the sport to the next level.
If personal experience leads to empathy and better understanding, there's no question that diving with sharks is a good thing. And even with more scuba divers encountering more sharks, the frequency of attacks has not increased. Whether shark divers are crazy adrenaline junkies, enlightened conservationists, or both, there's no denying their passion for these threatened animals. Many people still share the notion that the only good shark is a dead one. The problem today is that there are far too many dead sharks, and the remaining population is struggling to survive. And if sharks are to survive, we must all become advocates on their behalf. This is one of the largest creatures on Earth. But it's not a whale. It's a really big shark. They're called whale sharks, and they can weigh more than 30 tons and be longer than a city bus. They may be sharks, but we don't have to worry. They eat only the smallest animals in the sea. And like other sharks, they are threatened. Their numbers have declined dramatically, decimated by the global trade in shark fins and demand for their meat. Marine conservationists Brad Norman and Denny Ramirez study the behavior and biology of these enigmatic giants. At Mexico's Holbox Island and Australia's Ningaloo Reef, whale sharks congregate each year in search of food, and researchers also gather here to learn more about the sharks and how to save them from extinction. A booming ecotourism industry revolves around snorkeling with whale sharks. But the explosive growth of the industry may be scaring the animals away. And hundreds of miles from the nearest ocean, the world's largest aquarium is home to 4 growing whale sharks. They're huge animals. They've been around for at least 60 million years. But we know very little about whale sharks. We see them so rarely. They weren't even identified as a species until the mid-19th century. One of the few things we do know is that their numbers are decreasing. Whale sharks are cold-blooded, warm-water fish. They live in temperate and tropical seas near the equator. These giant sharks are amazing travelers, and they migrate immense distances in search of food. And this is what gets them into trouble. While they may be protected in one country's waters, they've been hunted relentlessly in others. And a single whale shark fin can be worth thousands of dollars. A coral reef, a beautiful and rich undersea realm. Countless species of marine life thrive here. At certain times of the year, the reef explodes with life. It's called a food pulse, when corals, fish, and other creatures lay their eggs. This mass simultaneous spawning injects so much food into the water column that predators just can't eat them all. Most of the eggs drift away on the currents unharmed. It's a brilliant survival strategy. But the tiny creatures aren't out of harm's way just yet. They are no match for one of the ocean's biggest binge eaters, whale sharks. Along the western coast of Australia, Cape Range National Park and the Ningaloo Reef stretch for almost 200 miles. Perth is a remote city on the edge of a remote continent, but that's not where the whale sharks are. To find them, you must fly another 1,000 miles north to the tip of the most westerly part of Australia. This is about as far as you can get from anywhere in Australia. Until 1967, there wasn't much to speak of at Cape Range, except perhaps for a few fishermen. The Cold War was in full swing, and the U.S. Navy built a submarine communications base on Australian soil. The radio towers are the tallest man-made structures in the Southern Hemisphere. The base eventually closed down in the early 90s, and the neighboring town of Exmouth lost their main employer. The economic forecast was grim. The whale sharks, of course, had never left. It took a transplanted village doctor from England who loved scuba diving to help sow the seeds of a new industry.
I'm a general practitioner. I had become very keen on underwater photography and bought myself a small cine camera before I went to Exmouth. And I was just falling in love with the whole marine environment up there, the coral reefs, the manta rays, dugong sharks, all the creatures that are up there at Ningaloo. Then in one day in March 1983, suddenly, after several hours of searching, we encountered a really big shark. I finally got in the water and swam with it and filmed it, and I was ecstatic. I was over the moon. I mean, to swim next to such a huge creature, to be able to approach it and get so close, it was just a mind-blowing experience. I knew that whale sharks had been seen at Ningaloo before occasionally, but really nothing had prepared me for the numbers that we would see coming in each autumn. And after that first encounter in 1983, we went on in the next 2 or 3 weeks to see numerous whale sharks, about 20 that season.
Taylor had stumbled onto a remarkable annual event. Each year, from March through June, giant whale sharks appeared seemingly out of the blue. Jeff theorized that for a few short months in the austral fall, whale sharks gathered, attracted by seasonal spawning events at Ningaloo Reef. He didn't realize the potential of his discovery at the time, and even thought about keeping it a secret. But his pioneering research and film footage eventually brought the story to the world. Television networks, marine biologists, and eventually tourists began flocking to Cape Range to witness the annual whale shark migration. Taylor is now considered to be the father of whale shark tourism in Western Australia. In the late 80s, a handful of businesses sprang up in the tiny villages of Coral Bay and Exmouth that relied on whale sharks' yearly visits. Animal-based ecotourism is now the #1 industry.
I have to tell you about a day this season. They spotted a very large whale shark. Our crew estimated it to be probably about 14 metres in length, which is just about the length of the boat we go out on.
From April to July, whale sharks are an enormous part of our business. They're very important to us as a community and as a dive center. We have clients from all over the world, and that's especially interesting when you consider how far away we are from everything. Our season so far has been fantastic. We had excellent sharks starting about the beginning of April, and we expect them to run till about the 3rd week of July this year. My first whale shark was in about 1996, and I see this enormous fish swimming out of the blue and suddenly materializing in front of my eyes. It was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had.
In Coral Bay and neighboring Exmouth, whale sharks are big business. Much of the local economy revolves around swimming with the giant fish. Today, marine conservationist Brad Norman is joining a diverse group of tourists from around the globe.
Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to Exmouth Dive Centre and your whale shark adventure of the day. We have had a lot of action out there. Yesterday we must have swum with 5 or 6 whale sharks. Okay, yay! What's going to happen this morning is we're going to hop onto the bus. It's going to take us about 40 minutes. Are we ready? Yay! Okay, let's get going.
Whale sharks are the #1 attraction at Ningaloo Marine Park at this time of the year, between about April and June. There's more than 7,000 tourists per year swim with whale sharks, so it's a really, really big industry to the region, and it's great to get that many people interested in whale sharks and taking the message about their conservation back to their friends and family.
The whale sharks are found in deeper water outside the shallow reef. Smaller skiffs ferry the tourists out to the dive boats waiting just offshore. For Brad Norman, the people on this whale shark watching trip are more than just tourists. They're research assistants, helping to unlock the mysteries of this fascinating animal. Swimming with whale sharks, that's what people come here to do. But there are strict guidelines. The maximum number of divers in the water at one time and the minimum safe distance from the animals.
Once you've seen the shark, you move to the side, okay? You'll be in front of it, it'll come towards you, move to one side, then turn around and just start swimming alongside the whale shark.
Hey guys, I got a whale shark down here.
Okay, hands up in group 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 more, who else is in group 1? In group 1? Group 1. Okay, quickly. Okay, go, go, go!
The guide's upraised arm indicates the shark's position. This is the perfect opportunity for the group to swim alongside a whale shark. But you have to move fast.
So little was known about whale sharks around the world, and I got to reading about them. I've been to Ningaloo and I was helping with some other research on fish, heard about the whale sharks and got very interested in trying to learn more about them. Then the opportunity came up where I could swim with a whale shark for the first time, and it really was one of the most amazing experiences I can remember. Jumping in the water into the deep blue, we're in about 90 or 100 metres, and looking under the water trying to see something coming at me, and then all of a sudden out of the blue, become this massive, massive creature. I mean, the size of a bus. It literally was a bus underwater coming towards me, and I was just shell-shocked. I was just looking at it go past, and it was so graceful and so beautiful. It really made me really want to help this species as much as I could.
Fantastic, that was huge. That was massive. That was hard work keeping up with it.
It's unbelievable. It's one of the best experiences of my life, really. Now it's really amazing.
It's a big ocean out there, and boats don't stumble onto whale sharks simply by chance. They need a little help from above.
Basically how the aerial spotting works is the planes go up and spot for the boats, cruise along the reef, search various grid patterns, and then when we find a shark we'll call the boats, give them a position on the reef, and then basically talk them into the shark using the clock code, so 12 o'clock at say 4 or 5 boat lengths for the boats, and talk them in through about 400 metres into the shark and onto the shark, and they take over once they get a visual.
A small fleet of planes takes to the skies each morning during whale shark season. It would be difficult for dive boats to find the animals without aerial spotting. Even though the sharks are frequently at the surface, they don't breach or surface for air like whales do.
C-zone, this is Norwest there.
Yeah, go ahead, Norwest there, C-zone here.
Yeah, g'day Craig, I've just picked up about an 8 metre shark here, off your 1 o'clock, about 15 boat lengths.
Yeah, righto mate, you just talk me onto it, I'll be there in a second. Yeah, righto mate, you let me know when I'm within 4 boat lengths.
Roger, will do. Okay, C-zone, that's coming up in your 11 o'clock, you're about 4.5 boat lengths away.
Yeah, beautiful mate. Yep, I got a visual, that's great.
Okay guys, go, go, go!
I knew the threats facing whale sharks. I knew they were a species in trouble. Being a marine biologist and somebody very interested in the oceans, it seemed to be a perfect match to trying to help save the largest fish in the sea. Whale sharks are such a difficult species to study, really, because they do roam the oceans. 70% of the planet's water. And we just can't really keep an eye on everything. There's niches that are important to them. We don't know where those important spots are to protect them.
Another day, another whale shark. But which one? Has it been to Ningaloo before? Has it been seen and identified before? Brad Norman and other researchers had noticed that every whale shark had a different configuration of white spots, scars, and marks.
We knew that whale sharks have spots and lines all over their body, possibly could be used to identify individuals. It was a case of actually refining that thought. When you're working with thousands and thousands of photographs, it becomes unworkable to try to match things up by eye.
Brad photographs the pattern of spots, adding to a growing database of images that identify individual animals. Science and conservation depends on data, and for whale sharks, photography is a primary tool. Like a human fingerprint, each animal has its own distinct pattern of spots. The patterns are complex, but there's something similar in the night sky, the galaxies of outer space. There was an existing technology that could catalog distant stars and planets. NASA's Hubble telescope utilized an advanced computer program to identify astral bodies. With the help of a computer programmer and an astrophysicist, the NASA technology was modified and adapted. Instead of identifying stars and galaxies, the new program identifies individual whale sharks. The process starts with a photo of an area near the 5th gill slit, and the spots are connected with triangles. The computer program then analyzes the image and compares the information with other whale sharks in the database.
People can just go to whaleshark.org and click on the website. There's a reported encounter page, date, time, location, and they can submit a photograph online. There's a little bit of work that we have to do with the processing of the photographs. We run a scan, come up with either a match for a shark previously seen or a new shark. Tourists and divers can become involved in two ways. One, learning more about whale sharks by going to the website. The second way is swim with a whale shark, take a photo and send that photo with the date and location of sighting, and that'll help us understand more about the numbers and the movements of these whale sharks around the world.
At Perth's Murdoch University, Brad Norman continues his pioneering work in whale shark identification. His efforts have garnered him the prestigious Rolex Award for Enterprise, and he is now an emerging explorer with the National Geographic Society. At Ningaloo Reef, tourists come for the experience of swimming with whale sharks, and at the same time, they help to increase our knowledge of these enigmatic animals.
There's many mysteries to whale sharks. We don't know where they're breeding. We don't know how often they breed. We don't know really where exactly they're migrating to and from, and how many actually are out there. These are points that, as to date, we haven't been able to answer. So as we build the program, we raise the awareness, we get thousands of people involved in helping with the research for whale sharks, I think we can answer the questions.
You don't have to travel to remote Western Australia to see whale sharks. Hundreds of kilometers from the nearest saltwater, the world's largest aquarium is home to 4 growing whale sharks. This idyllic undersea realm appears to be a thriving coral reef. Rare sharks and rays patrol a sandy bottom. But this isn't the tropical Pacific or even the Caribbean. It's the Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta, and it's over 200 miles from the nearest ocean. Dozens of exhibits house an impressive collection. 100,000 animals represent over 500 different species. Nearly the size of a football field and 30 feet deep, this is the biggest individual fish tank on the planet, the Ocean Voyager exhibit. It holds enough water to fill 10 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And they build it big for a reason. The star attractions here are whale sharks. They join a cast of thousands in the aquarium's most popular exhibit.
The whale shark was a real challenge for the team here at the Georgia Aquarium in designing this exhibit. It is a huge animal, and we had to create an exhibit here, a habitat, where these animals could remain their entire lives and be able to comfortably swim all that time as well. It's 285 feet from one end to the other. And that would give even an adult whale shark plenty of room to swim without having to turn around in a circle.
Behind the scenes and out of sight, there's an entire city of pumps, pipes, and filters.
Where you're standing right now, you're in the heart of the Ocean Voyager exhibit. Everything in this room is dedicated to ensuring that Ocean Voyager has good, clean, healthy water for the animal. Being in Atlanta, being about 5 hours from the nearest ocean, we actually have to create our own salt water here on site. We've designed the turnover rate to be about once every 60 minutes, and that means that each drop of water comes out of the exhibit and goes through the entire filtration process every hour.
It's all run by computers. 3,200 control points are connected with over 25 miles of wiring. And keeping it up and running smoothly is a massive undertaking.
It takes a lot of behind-the-scenes work to keep this equipment up and running properly.
The water in dozens of exhibits, all 8 million gallons of it, needs to be kept sparkling clean. And so do the windows. Every day, a team of volunteer divers descend into Ocean Voyager. Window washers with scuba tanks.
The cleaning guys go in every morning and they take baby diapers and they wipe down all of the acrylic in the exhibit, making sure all of the sand and gravel and everything is off of it so it doesn't get scratched, and also wiping down algae so it doesn't build up.
Today, there's a new group of divers. For the first time, the whale sharks are going to be filmed by an underwater television crew. Veteran cinematographers Tom Campbell and Neil McDaniel had worked in virtually every marine environment on Earth. But this is unlike any dive they've ever done. Saltwater and expensive electronics don't mix. Technician Dennis Kaufman prepares the high-tech housing and camera equipment for the dive. Big cameras for big fish. Keeping out of the way of an animal the size of a bus is definitely a concern. But safety divers are more wary of a great hammerhead shark and a couple of very territorial Goliath groupers. Everything in the Ocean Voyager tank is huge.
All right, guys, today our objective is to clean the windows, and there's going to be some filming going on at the same time. Our time and depth is however long it takes to do the windows, which should be about an hour. Depth is no greater than 30 feet. Bertius and Jim will be your safeties, so they will be hanging out with you guys, and these guys will be covering them.
It's definitely the coolest indoor dive you'll probably find in the world. And it rivals even dives out there in open ocean. And you know, at the end of the day, in all my years of diving, I've never seen whale sharks in the wild, and to be able to dive with them here daily is amazing.
Well, this is the first for us in a big tank like this, huh? I've been in aquarium tanks, Tom, but they've all been about, I don't know, 1/10 the size of this thing. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be pretty wild.
Above water, the high-definition camera system weighs nearly 100 pounds and is very awkward to carry. But underwater, it's as light as a feather. The first resident to check out the camera team is the giant hammerhead. Fortunately, he's very well fed.
You got to remember, when you do an exhibit like this, there is no handbook called Whale Sharks for Dummies. We don't have a guide on how to keep the whale sharks. Now, we know a lot about sharks in aquariums, and we can apply that knowledge to this, the largest of all the sharks, when we designed the exhibit. But every day is still a learning curve for us. We're learning a lot, how fast they grow. We have males and female whale sharks here, so we're very interested in how their biology and their behavior changes as they mature. We have some great opportunities to learn even more about them, because this is like a laboratory, a big laboratory, where we can study the whale shark, learn a little bit about its sensory biology. What does it actually see? What can it smell? How does it find its food? These are all questions that we can learn here in this aquarium environment, which would be very hard to learn in the ocean.
neat about it is that we've seen a lot of these fish in the open ocean, but everybody looks so happy down there. I mean, all the fish look happy. They're just moving around doing what they do, and it's really something. Have that wide variety, and the whale sharks are fabulous.
Really cool. I mean, it's just amazing to be in the water with 4 whale sharks. That big grouper in the corner, though, boy, he gave me a scare. I was filming the tunnel there, and all of a sudden he showed up, and that thing is big, really big, and he kind of looked at me with those big eyeballs, and I'm thinking, oh, I think I'm in his territory. I'm going to go out of here.
These are the only whale sharks in an aquarium in the Western Hemisphere. There's a handful of others in smaller facilities in Asia, closer to where the animals were originally captured. The sharks in Georgia, however, had a lot farther to travel. The Atlanta whale sharks were originally caught by fishermen in Taiwan and were destined for the dinner plate. But the Georgia Aquarium had other plans.
We had a good baseline knowledge of how to move animals. We just had to supersize it all. Basically what we did is we found the largest aircraft pallet we could get. We built the biggest box we could build for that aircraft pallet, measured the inside, said, okay, we need a shark this size or smaller, and that's how we geared everything toward the size of the equipment that you see. There were a lot of intense moments getting the animals out of the sea pen. You had cultural barriers, language barriers, Chinese, Japanese, English, Taiwanese. We had challenges with equipment the first time out. Of course, then there's permitting along the way as far as aircraft takeoff and landing. So there were a number of intense moments along the way. Yep. Okay, bring it down, bring it down. One of our biggest concerns in moving the animals was the weight of their body on their cartilaginous skeleton. So the only time that we lifted them out of the water was in Taiwan when we moved them into the transport box. Down, down.
Boats, cranes, huge planes and life support systems. Getting these immense animals from Taiwan to Atlanta safely took tremendous ingenuity, a bit of luck, and a lot of very hard work. It was a logistical nightmare, but in the end, it all came together. Remarkably, after nearly 2 days of confinement in small shipping tanks and being transported around the globe, all the whale sharks immediately responded well to their new home. Feeding whale sharks and other residents of the aquarium and keeping them healthy is no ordinary job. Good nutrition is a constant challenge. The food needs to be of the highest quality, restaurant grade in fact. And whale sharks eat a lot of food.
The whale sharks eat about 5 kilos of food a day, and that contains krill, squid, silver sides, and a gel formula.
Fine dining, whale shark style, a la carte. The whale sharks can't be fed together. It would be too chaotic. Each animal instead has its own station. The males are fed from small inflatable dinghies and the females from bridge platforms.
Twice a day, these whale sharks are fed, and we're feeding them a diet fairly similar to what they might get in nature. We know from our research down in Mexico, they're feeding on small shrimps, very small, a couple of millimeters in length. They also feed on copepods and fish eggs. But here at the aquarium, we're also feeding them small fish, small shrimps. And we make a diet that we prepare. We actually add gelatin to it. We grind it all up and make it into a gelatin. We can cut it up in small cubes and add some extra nutrients to that. So twice a day, those animals are fed here at the aquarium. And that was one challenge we weren't quite sure of when we were designing this exhibit. Would they actually feed properly and normally?
Each shark has been conditioned to feed from a different colored bucket at opposite sides of the exhibit. They've been very well trained, but the males and females still need to be separated at feeding time.
and the female whale sharks separated during feeding just to really give them more room. They're very large animals, and they do take a bit of space to turn around in order for them to feed, and we don't want them all jumbled up together and banging up each other.
We're one of the first people in North America to ever have whale sharks, and so some of the research that we're doing and what we're learning from is very new, and we're able to share this data with other facilities in Asia. For example, our team has learned how to routinely give the whale sharks an examination, be able to obtain blood work, and share these techniques that someday may be very applicable to making a difference for wildlife in wild places.
No one likes a needle, whale sharks included. Having the immense animals in an aquarium setting has provided staff with a remarkable opportunity to learn more about the animals. In their state-of-the-art lab, ongoing research with blood and tissue samples help the aquarium piece together clues to whale shark biology and genetics. Much of the research at the Georgia Aquarium is complemented by work done on the open sea. Scientists and tourists travel to tiny Holbox Island to swim with whale sharks. But all is not well in paradise. Holbox is a tiny island northwest of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Remote and isolated, Holbox Island was once reputed to be a haven for pirates. It became a base for fishermen, and now it's a popular tourist destination. The #1 attraction for visitors, whale sharks. Every summer, nutrient-rich water from the Caribbean Sea flows south across the shallow continental shelf. The currents fuel a massive plankton bloom. Like coral spawning events off Ningaloo Reef in Australia, this feast of zooplankton and fish eggs is a magnet for whale sharks. The sharks attract scientists like Denny Ramirez, a marine biologist from the Biological Research Institute in La Paz, Mexico.
Good morning. Morning. How are you?
The whale sharks also draw tourists, lots of them. Ecotourism has dramatically changed the economy of this tiny island. Fishermen have become tour operators.
This was a village of fishermen, and they would see the whale shark every year. But they never thought it would be something important for them.
The best strategy to find whale sharks: get out on the water early. It can take hours to locate the animals, and there's no aerial spotter planes at Holbox. Rafael de la Parra is the coordinator of the Domino Project, a unique program that partners scientists and tour operators to study the sharks and to regulate tourist activities. And sometimes the best way to find whale sharks is to follow the local tour boats.
They are pretty well organized right now. They will take turns and they will try to not bother the animal. They will wait a little and 3 people in the water at the same time, then they will drift away, then another boat comes and drop his people again, and so on.
Research and tourism go hand in hand at Holbox. Operators let the scientists know where the sharks are and relay basic information, such as the sex and size of the sharks and if they've been tagged. But today, there's only one shark, and that creates a problem. Tour operators take priority, and the researchers must wait for their chance to work on the animal. The standard rule is that tourists go first and scientists go last. Finally, the tour boats are finished for the day. Before the shark has a chance to get away, the researchers spring into action. The first order of business is to implant a yellow ID tag. This is a new shark, one that hasn't been seen or identified before. Denny Ramirez wants to find out how whale sharks from around the world are related genetically, where they're going, and where they're from. To do this, she first needs photos to identify them. Denny and other scientists at Holbox send their photo ID images to Brad Norman's database in Australia. Together, researchers around the world are starting to gather a broader understanding of population numbers and global distribution.
What's the number? The number of the picture is 44 to 60.
To learn more about whale shark genetics, she needs to get a DNA sample. She's an expert freediver, but it's still a challenge to keep up with the big animals. Skillfully, she extracts a tiny piece of flesh with a sharp tool. These small samples are key pieces in a genetic puzzle. Back on the surface, Denny carefully unscrews the sharp spear tip which holds a sample of fatty tissue. The flesh goes into a sterile container filled with alcohol to keep the DNA from breaking down.
Good sample?
Sí, una muy buena muestra.
This sample will join hundreds of others back at her lab in La Paz. The final task is implanting an acoustic locator tag which will allow the researchers to track the shark in local waters. But the tag's tether has to go deeper into muscle tissue to ensure it stays in place. It causes the animal some discomfort, and it leaves the scene quickly. The next morning, Denny Ramirez joins a group of scientists from Mote Marine Laboratory and the Georgia Aquarium. These researchers are at Holbox to gather information about everything from what the animals are eating to local water conditions. It all helps with efforts in Georgia to keep their captive animals healthy and happy in their adopted home.
The work that we're doing here in Holbox complements the work that we do at the aquarium in a lot of ways. So we learn a lot in the aquarium setting, and then we also learn a lot in the field. But standing alone, neither one of those is really the complete picture. We're actually looking at what they're eating and why they're there. And so we do that basically by taking plankton tows at every place where we see animals that are actually foraging. Yesterday and the day before, it was fish eggs. Normally it's different types of zooplankton, suggested shrimp, copepods, amphipods, things like that.
While Denny prepares her equipment, there's time to test water conditions.
Please don't put her in gear. It's a lot colder down toward the bottom. Almost 30 degrees at the surface and 24 degrees down, 50 feet down.
Once various studies are completed, the scientists begin searching for sharks. But just like the previous day, the research team has difficulty finding any animals. They have to rely once more on the tour boats. Lured by booming ecotourism, unlicensed and unregulated boats from as far away as Cancun are now crowding an already saturated market.
Whale shark ecotourism has really taken off in the last 5 years. If ecotourism on whale sharks becomes too predominant so that in all areas of the world boats on virtually every animal, I think that the effect is going to be negative in the long run, and I think that ecotourism is going to end up being overall a negative impact on the whale shark population as a whole. I fear that we're going to drive the sharks away from these important areas where they come to feed.
As the tour boats wind down for the day, it's time for the scientists to get to work.
This is a pop-off satellite archival tag. This tag accumulates information on sharks' depth and temperature of the water and the locations of the shark as it migrates. And we insert this dart head underneath the shark's skin, and it rides with the shark then. And then at a preset time, the connection between the tag and the tether releases. In this case, in 90 days, it will come to the surface where it floats and then send all of its data back to us in the laboratory via satellite.
It appears to be another unidentified shark. First, Rafael de la Parra implants an ID tag. The shark now has a number. In just a few short seasons, the team has tagged and identified over 600 animals. Denny quickly gets her DNA sample, and Bob Huter successfully implants the satellite tag. Whether it's Australia or Mexico, whale shark tourism has proven that a live shark is worth more than a dead one. But is this type of tourism harmful to the animals?
The fact that we still don't have a great understanding of the dynamics of their behavior again underscores the importance of us being very careful with this resource and not kill the goose that laid the golden egg. The goose being whale sharks, the golden egg being the economy that it's been driving in terms of ecotourism. We've got to take a very conservative approach in terms of how we allow ecotourism to utilize this resource, just like we would do with fisheries.
Although Holbox Island and other destinations are experiencing some growing pains with ecotourism, there are far greater threats to whale sharks. Since the 19th century, whale sharks have been a target of fishermen in countries like India, China, and the Philippines. In recent decades, the growing popularity of shark fin soup has fueled a terribly destructive fishery. Global demand for the tasteless, dried cartilage of shark fins has helped to wipe out up to 90% of all sharks. And whale sharks have become a prime target. A single fin can be worth a fortune to an impoverished fisherman. But the whale shark's real enemies are the corporations who buy, process, and market the fins. It's a multi-million-dollar industry that knows no borders. In 1997, filmmaker and photojournalist Erin Calmez traveled to the Philippines on assignment. She discovered that whale sharks were being killed for their fins, and the fins were processed for export to Asia. She documented the destructive practices and brought the story to the world's attention in her groundbreaking film, The Whale Shark Hunters. Her work exposed an international trade in shark fins and meat that exploited not only the sharks, but the native fishermen themselves. The dramatic film helped turn the tide on the exploitation of the animals. It is now illegal to kill whale sharks in the Philippines, and other countries like Honduras and Belize soon followed their lead. Instead of killing sharks, fishermen began focusing their efforts on tagging, research, and ecotourism. Mexico outlawed shark finning in 2007, and Taiwan declared that 2008 would be the last year of their commercial whale shark fishery. The future is looking much brighter for whale sharks.
One of my greatest fears, years ago was that we might have been too late to save the whale sharks because their numbers had been declining so dramatically. I was a little pessimistic at the time, but the outstanding response that we've had from many different stakeholders all around the world is giving me confidence that we can be optimistic about the future of this threatened fish. But we need to be on our toes and we need to continue the hard work we've undertaken.
Every day when we come to the aquarium and we watch people come to this exhibit, we know that most of the people who come here are never going to see the ocean or even see a whale shark in the ocean. The expressions that people show, sometimes tears, when they see the big window here and these amazing fish come swimming by them, we know we've made a connection. And what gives me optimism is that next generation of kids in particular are going to include the future marine biologists who are going to take care of these animals, protect them where necessary to ensure that we have whale sharks and other big fishes in the sea forever.
We're learning more and more about these amazing animals every day and how important they are to the marine ecosystem. Like canaries in a coal mine, they are key indicators of the health of our seas and oceans. And like so many things in this natural world, we are also learning to care about them by getting to know them.